this just happened. It said a plane with 6 aboard crashes in Philadelphia, setting homes ablaze and unleashing a fireball, right? So we're going to talk about the other plane crash that just happened earlier this week, but this one just happened like a while ago, all right? The one in Philadelphia. All right, it says a medical transport jet carrying a pediatric patient and 5 others slammed into a Philadelphia neighborhood about 30 seconds after taking off on Friday, erupting in a fireball and engulfing several homes in fire. Mayor Sherrell Parker said Wednesday night at a news conference that information on fatalities wasn't immediately known, but several homes and vehicles have been damaged. So wait a minute. What do you mean on Wednesday? That must be either a typo or that must be about something else. Because this just happened. So how's she going to say Wednesday at a news conference? Anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. They might be mixing up stories here. It said a doorbell camera captured footage of the plane plunging in a streak of white and exploding as it hit the ground near a shopping mall and major roadway. The crash came just 2 days after the deadliest air disaster in a generation, right? So, I don't know why it said anything about Wednesday night. This thing just happened. Yeah, so it literally says that it said after taking off on Friday. Then they also added this in here about that the mayor said Wednesday night about information on fatalities wasn't immediately known. That has to be some kind of error. That's and they are like actively updating this story because like whenever I was looking at this just moments ago, it did not say anything about how many on board, and it didn't have this about Wednesday night. So this is weird to say the least. All right, the way that they're updating this. It said all we heard was a loud roar and didn't know where it was coming from. We just turned around and saw the big plume. Said Jim Quinn, the owner of the doorbell camera. The crash happened less than 3 miles from Northeast Philadelphia Airport, which primarily serves business jets and charter flights, right? It was like 30 seconds after takeoff is what it said, immediately after takeoff. The plane, a Learjet 55, quickly disappeared from radar after taking off from the airport at 6:06 p.m. So, and this is what we're really about to get into when it comes to the DC plane crash, because like I said, when I just looked at this article a while ago, it was maybe half the length that it is here. And it said nothing about 6 in the title. It just said plane in Philadelphia, right? But it says plane with 6 on board quickly disappeared from radar after taking off from the airport at 6:06. That's 3 6s. Like, how are they this fucking blatant with it? I'm sorry. Excuse my language, but this is crazy. Because like why they say very commonly that you're more likely to get struck by lightning or like anything improbable than to actually die in a plane crash, right? They're so rare, right? They do happen, of course, but they're rare. All right, and here we have 2 within days of each other, one in DC, one in Philadelphia, and we'll get into the DC here in a minute, but here in this one here in Philadelphia with the 6 on board and taking off from the airport at 6:06 p.m. I mean, like that's clearly some satanic stuff going on here. And climbing to an altitude of 1,600 feet, 487 meters. It was en route to Springfield, Missouri, and that was actually in the article before. It was. At least that stayed the same. And registered to a company operating as MedJets, according to the flight tracking website FlightAware. And and as you can tell by my surprise, it didn't say anything about taking off at 6:06 either. Whenever I just read this article minutes ago, all right? It said on Wednesday night. Yeah, so this is the one that was Wednesday night, is the DC situation. On Wednesday night, an American Airlines jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members collided in midair in Washington, D.C. with an Army helicopter carrying 3 soldiers. There were no survivors in that crash, right? So why would an Army helicopter take out this civilian jet? Not jet, this civilian flight, right? Because it's just a plane. It's not even a jet. Well, I guess it does say jet. but it's a civilian plane. All right. Why in the world would a Black Hawk helicopter take out this civilian plane? Right? Why would they collide? Why are you doing these secret missions in DC with? Because if you watch the video, and I'm not going to play the video, but if you watch the video of this DC incident, you cannot see the Black Hawk helicopter. There's no lights on. It's in stealth mode. You can only see the plane and then the collision, and then everything dropped. All right. But anyway, it said Governor Josh Shapiro, and they've mixed up these incidents. The way that this is written, I'm pretty surprised at how sloppily this is written, because it mixed up, the news conference and the details. They're just kind of thrown in there haphazardly with both different flights. It's wild. But the governor, Josh Shapiro, he's the governor of Pennsylvania, said he is offering all Commonwealth resources as they respond to the small private plane crash in Northeast Philly, right? So it's talking about two different crashes right here. It's just oddly written. A continuous stream of police vehicles and fire trucks initially poured into the scene, taking over business parking lots as emergency responders to the crash and fire directed people away and set up a perimeter stretching blocks in each direction. Within about an hour, the cry of sirens and shouted orders had faded into a relative quiet at the edges of the closed-off area, and darkness settled in as drivers passing by peered out trying to see what was happening. The plane crashed in a busy intersection near Roosevelt Mall, an outdoor shopping center in the densely populated neighborhood of Ronhurst. One cell phone video taken by witness moments after the plane crash showed a chaotic scene with debris scattered across the intersection. A wall of orange glow just beyond the intersection as a plume of black smoke quickly rose into the sky and sirens blared. Yeah, so this is very fishy to say the least. I was not expecting to see those 3 6s in this article. It's very fishy. Like I said, I read the article moments ago. It was like half this length and didn't contain the information that it contains here. And I know they update their stories and whatnot, but it's wild. It's wild. So it said Michael Schiavone, 37, was sitting in his home in Mayfair, a nearby neighborhood, on Friday when he heard a loud bang and his house shook. He said it felt like a mini earthquake. And when he checked his home security camera footage, he said it looked like a missile was coming down. There was a large explosion, so I thought we were under attack for a second, he said. The plane's owner, Jet Rescue, provides global air ambulance services. The company based in Mexico flew Baseball Hall of Famer David Ortiz to Boston after he was shot in the Dominican Republic in 2019 and was involved in transporting patients critically ill with COVID-19. Right, so this is a medical plane. It's a message seeking comment was left with Jet Rescue's U.S. headquarters in Boca Raton, Florida. The FAA said the National Transport Safety Board will lead the investigation. The NTSB, which investigates air crashes, said it was gathering information about the crash. Right, so there's still information to be released on this. But yeah, a pediatric plane, or a medical transport jet, a medical transport jet. That's what happened in Philly. It went down immediately after takeoff and, crashed into some houses and residential area in general, all right? Just happened a while ago. But the DC plane crash, and this is a couple days ago, so we know a little bit more information. We have a little bit more information about it, all right? So the DC plane crash, what we know about the victims and ongoing investigation. You have figure skaters, young figure skaters, I think high school age figure skaters on the plane. Like I said, all 67 people on board an American Airlines flight in a Black Hawk helicopter that collided in midair while the plane was landing at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport near Washington, D.C. are believed to be dead, according to officials, right? Because it fell immediately into the Potomac. All right, the plane and the helicopter fell immediately into the river. All right. said this is the deadliest aviation tragedy in the United States since November 12th, 2001, when an American Airlines plane crashed into a residential area of Belle Harbor, New York, shortly after taking off from JFK International Airport in New York City, killing 260 passengers on board and 5 people on the ground. We're not talking about that one, really. And this one had 67 people die. And then you had the extra 6 people, I suppose, from the one we just read about, the Philly one, right? Let's see. Here's what we know about the victims of Wednesday's crash, what happened, and what the initial investigation suggests might have contributed to the accident. Flight 5342, operated by American Eagle, a regional branch of American Airlines, was flying from Wichita, Kansas to the airport just outside of Washington, D.C. as it approached Ronald Reagan Airport about 9 p.m. on Wednesday. The aircraft collided with a Sikorsky Black Hawk Army helicopter. So that right there automatically sounds like, well, what's going on then? It collided with a Black Hawk Army helicopter. What are they doing? What are they doing there? All right, and if they're running, and we'll get into this. Let's read a little further. Shortly before landing, the plane's pilots were asked to change runways. While the plane was initially supposed to land on the main runway 1, as it says, shortly before landing, they were asked to change runways. They were supposed to go down the main runway. All right? The plane was asked to pivot to runway 33, which is much shorter. If you know anything about 33, the number 33, that's the highest degree of Freemason you can be. All right? There's 33 degrees of Freemasonry. All right? So, yeah, just like the other article, just out of nowhere, popped in the 3 6s. This one's popping in 33, right? For no reason. They switched to 33 right there shortly before landing. And that's what caused the crash. All right? So it's just fishy. All right? It could be a reach. I could be reaching here. But it just sounds and smells fishy to me. Flight tracking maps showed that the pilots accepted this request and adjusted the plane. So they adjusted the plane due to this request? What was it called? Or was it command? Yeah, so they asked them, so let's say request. And it used the words request here. Fewer than 30 seconds before the crash took place, an air traffic controller asked the Army helicopter if it could see the plane. Pat 25, Army helicopter, do you have a CRG, American Airlines plane in sight? Pat 25, passed behind the CRG, an air traffic controller said at 8:47 p.m. A short time later, the air traffic controllers could be heard saying, crash, 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 this is an alert 3. The two aircraft crashed into the Potomac River. The cause of the collision is not known yet, right? So it's not the fault of the air traffic controllers, right? The person just sitting there at the station doing their job, all right? Why they had told the plane to switch runways, that's a question that needs to be looked into. But they warned the Black Hawk helicopter, right? The person just sitting there at the desk, even the person sitting there at the desk, like, it's not their job to tell people to switch runways. It's their job to tell people which runway they're going to. Where did this order come down from to tell them to switch runways? But the person sitting at the desk, the air traffic controller, they did their job. They said, hey, look, hey, Army helicopter, here comes a plane, pass behind the plane, don't hit that plane. But the Army helicopter either was not paying attention, which is not like anybody in the military as far as the U.S. military is concerned. They're pretty serious about their jobs, especially if they're flying helicopters. But I guess it's possible that, they just did not hear them, or they struck the plane on purpose because they had the warning. So which one is it? Which is more likely? And it still says here, hey, The cause of the collision is not known yet. We don't know why. We don't know why the Army helicopter went straight for this plane. All right. Were there any survivors? The American Airlines flight was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members, while the Black Hawk had 3 U.S. Army soldiers on board. We're now at a point where we're switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we do not believe there are any survivors from this accident. You see it right there. So, 67 people took out in this incident. Maybe one of the Army people survived, but they, I think we just read. No. But I think later on down it's going to say that, the bodies, at least one of the Army people died as well, right? We don't believe there's any survivors. DC Fire Chief John Donnelly said in a televised statement on Thursday. Donnelly added that the bodies of 27 people have been recovered from the plane, while one body has been recovered from the helicopter. Separately, a law enforcement source told CBS News that at least 40 bodies have been recovered. Right, so they've recovered most of the bodies, and they said, "Look, we don't think anybody survives." So they did pull one dead body from the Army helicopter. And maybe even more at this point, because apparently CBS heard that they had 40 bodies recovered. It said the NTSB, which is the National Transport Safety Board, the NTSB, is carrying out an all-hands-on-deck investigation into the crash. Well, now they can't have all hands on deck because they got to have a couple investigating the Philly crash, right? That's what we just read, that they were going to investigate that crash now. All right. Chairwoman Jennifer Hamady said during a news conference on Thursday, the NTSB is an independent federal agency that investigates civil aviation accidents in the U.S. as well as serious incidents related to other modes of transportation. On Friday, the NTSB announced it had found the black boxes from the plane, and they've looked into it, but I don't know if it mentions anything here. Black boxes record flight data, pilots' conversations, and radio communications during flights. These recorders provide significant information in investigating aviation incidents because they can reveal pilot actions or external factors that might have contributed to accidents, right? The black box will tell you everything you need to know about a plane, right? Especially when it goes down. The recorders are at the NTSB labs for evaluation, the agency said in a post on X. While the investigation is at an early stage, multiple U.S. media outlets, including the New York Times and NBC News, have quoted unnamed sources as saying there was an air traffic controller shortage on Wednesday night at Reagan Airport. But as we just read, it's not the air traffic controller's fault because they had warned the Black Hawk. They had warned the helicopter that here comes a plane, right? So you can't even put on the air traffic controllers. For the investigation, the NTSB will form working groups to look into different areas connected to the accident, according to the NTSB board member Todd Inman. Inman explained that these groups would include operations, investigation, crew member duties, and flight histories, power systems looking into aircraft engine structures, documenting the accident scene and airframe wreckage. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with the power systems. Sorry, it seems like there was a collision. So that's what they need to look into. Why was there a collision? Why is it that the Army helicopter went straight for this civilian aircraft? Survival factors look into injury sustained, systems looking into electrical, hydraulic, and pneumatic components of that plane and helicopter, and an air traffic control group. The NTSB has not said how long the investigation would take, but investigations into aviation incidents can take 1 to 2 years. The agency typically releases a preliminary report a few weeks after the accident that contains information collected at the scene. I'm not going to necessarily get into all these people. She got a married Russian couple. Flight Captain Campos. So it's a fellow pilot with a aeronautical science degree. Let's see, Sam Lilly, also one of the pilots. Let's see. Little is known about the three soldiers. 14 people were affiliated with the figure skating community and were returning home from a national figure skating development camp for young skaters in Wichita. Skating Club of Boston CEO Doug Zegaby said on Thursday. A Russian world champion skating couple, that's what we was looking at down there, the married Russian couple. Two teenage figure skaters and their mothers. Yeah, very tragic, very tragic. Why did this happen? That's what they need to look at. All right. Yeah, that's all I've pretty much seen about the victims is that they were figure skaters. So like, what is all this about? Personally, like I said, it seems fishy. It seems fishy to me, and maybe it's death for the sake of killing. It's kind of what it seems like. Man, you got Epstein here. Epstein was actually killed in this flight. Ian Epstein. That's a flight attendant. 2 children, 2 stepchildren. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, very tragic. Very tragic. Let's see. Daughter of Indian immigrants. So, yeah, I mean, it just, like I said, it's tragic. It's tragic. And also, like I said, it seems very fishy, especially the DC one. And then the fact that the Philadelphia one came right afterwards. You don't see plane crashes back to back like that unless it is something, initiated and instigated, right? So, I just want to start by going to Luke 13. Understand when it comes to these figure skaters and the people who died as victims in this crash, it's not like they were worse than any of the rest of us, all right? It's just judgment from God, all right? We're all worthy of death. They're not above, they're not sinning above all the rest of us. They're just, drew the short straw in this particular instance. So Luke 13:1, it said, there were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices, right? So even in that case, you had an Edomite more directly, Edomite coming in and killing people for what appears to be no reason, all right? These Edomites that rule now, they don't like to get their hands dirty directly. They'll do it indirectly, and they'll do it in what seems like a freak accident, right? Like you have this army helicopter taking out a civilian plane for no apparent reason, and then you have another plane crash a few days later. A couple days later. It's not even a few days. It was a couple days later. All right, in the middle of the city. And it was a medical jet, right? Just crashed 30 seconds after takeoff, right? That sounds very suspicious. Sounds very sabotaged, if we're being honest. Plus, they throw the 666 in the article. And, we read a thing about the DC switching to runway 33, right? So why did they switch to that runway instead of going down the main runway? Let's see. But anyway. Verse 2, and Jesus answering said unto them, suppose ye that these Galileans were sinners above all the Galileans, because they suffered such things? I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye shall all likewise perish. Right? So except you repent, except you get right, you're going to face the same fate. That's the word I'm looking for. You're going to face the same fate. You're going to die just like them, just like the people in this crash. These crashes, because it was multiple. Verse 4, O those 18 upon whom the tower in Siloam fell and slew them, think ye that they were sinners above all men that dwelt at Jerusalem? I tell you, nay, but except you repent, ye shall all likewise perish. But except you repent, you're going to die too. All right? So, but notice, at first Christ used an example of people being killed, right? As in like, people intentionally killing others. That's what Pilate did. He intentionally killed those Galileans, right? Whereas you had the Tower of Siloam, that's a freak accident, quote unquote, right? So in any case, whether this be a situation where it's a direct killing, by some of these, wicked devils who run this place and like to sacrifice people, because that is true. They do that. They like murder. They like killing people for no apparent reason. So it very well could be that, or if it's just a freak accident. Either way, it's the same thing, right? Their deaths aren't anything to be trivialized, because it could happen to any of us, right? If we're not right with the Most High. All right. And even if we were, it could still happen. We'd just be in better hands, so to speak. We would have a better fate in that we would, return with Christ. Whereas these people, you never can tell, right? You can't tell. That's just in God's hands. I can more than likely assure you, though, they did not make their calling and election sure. I don't know, but, I'm not sure that they did. But then again, like I said, I don't know. That's in the hands of the Most High. Anyway, about planes, it was prophesied that in Daniel 12, it would be easier to travel in the last days. That's why planes came around in the first place. Let's see, verse 4. It says, but thou, this is right to the point, Daniel 12 and verse 4, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased, right? So it used to be like weeks and weeks journey to get from DC to Wichita, or vice versa, right? Or from Philly to St. Louis. It used to, take weeks to make that journey. Now you can do it in an evening, right? You just got to clear your schedule and you can do it. So that's why many's running to and fro. You got people like businessmen who, have a meeting in New York, and then the next day they got a meeting in London, and then the next day they got a meeting in Shanghai, right? So you got many people running to and fro, all right? And planes help that, right? It's an easier way to travel than other means. It said, and knowledge shall be increased, right? Everybody has, everything at the tip of their fingers, right? Everybody's got one of these in their pockets. It's a supercomputer that everyone has and carries with them daily. Most people use it to, play around on social media and like fornicate and whatever. But you literally have any knowledge or information you want, right? If you use that device effectively, you could really learn anything you wanted to learn. You could do anything you wanted to do, right? Like all the information's there. It's readily available. So knowledge is increased in these last days, all right? So let's go to the invention of the plane. It was prophesied in the scriptures. In Isaiah, this is one of the most misinterpreted verses in the entire Bible. All right, in Isaiah 14, where is it at? Starting with verse 12, it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? All right, so this is the only verse in the entire Bible that uses the word Lucifer. And yet people have created this mythology, that Satan was actually an archangel at one point in time and he disobeyed God, and that was Lucifer, and when he was turned to Satan, and now he's the devil, and that's not what happens at all in the Bible. All right, that is not what the scriptures talk about at all. That's from a poem in the Middle Ages called Paradise Lost. It's Christian mythology. It's not real. It's not what the Bible talks about at all when it talks about Lucifer. All right. So in Isaiah 14, Yeah, let's start with verse 1 because you kind of got to get the whole context of the whole chapter. But verse 4 lets you know it's the king of Babylon. Lucifer is the king of Babylon. All right, it's not Satan. All right. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. Right. So we're talking about deliverance. We're talking about salvation. All right. And these strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Right. So the other nations are going to want to join with the Israelites. They're going to say, hey, the world has been destroyed, because it will be with World War III. The world will be destroyed. And they see that the Israelites got salvation. They see that the Israelites are now on the up. They say, hey, we want to come be with y'all. Right? Verse 2, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And so the Israelites are going to be like, okay, yeah, come on. Come to Jerusalem. Come to New Jerusalem. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, right? And the people are going to be servants to the Israelites. All the other nations are going to have to serve the Israelites, all right? And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors, right? So that's the theme here, all right? Is that the Israelites who have been in captivity and under subjugation are now going to rule, and the other nations are going to be in that captivity and subjugation. All right, that's what we see here. All right, verse 3, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Right, so in the day that God delivers us from our captivities, where we don't have to work no more, right, where we can have other people working for us. All right. So verse 4, it says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. All right, so this Babylon ain't talking about Nebuchadnezzar and the ancient Babylon. This is talking about Babylon the Great, right? And the king of Babylon now is called Donald Trump. All right, he's the king here in Babylon. All right, or you can say Musk, I guess, but it's really Trump, because if Musk does something that Trump doesn't like, then he will cast him aside the way that he does anybody who he feels betrays him. All right, and believe you me, the people, the Republicans, the MAGA supporters, whatever you want to call them, they're definitely going to side with Trump on anything and everything. So if he hasn't fallen out with Musk, then nobody's going to go to Musk's side. Everybody's going to go to Trump's side. And that might be one of the reasons why they get along so well, is because Trump knows that he has that power over him, and Musk knows that he has financial power over Trump, right? Because he funded the campaign. But anyway, king of Babylon is talking about the wicked Edomites that's running the society, all right? And, the golden city ceased, right? When America falls. Said the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. That's what Trump is doing now. He's trying to deport all the Israelites out of here. He said it don't matter if you're born here or whether you came here, right? But he's trying to deport all of them. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. You see that right there? So when that judgment comes back on these wicked people, ain't nobody gonna stop it, because it's gonna be judgment from God. All right, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing, right? So the earth will rejoice when the Israelites are in rulership, because the wicked ruling the earth now, what do? They pollute the planet. They dig into it for the oil and the coal, and that causes your hurricanes and your earthquakes and whatnot. The earth is responding in a very negative manner, right? But guess what? When the Israelites rule, the earth will be rejoicing. It's not going to be all that plastics everywhere like what you see now on the landfills and stuff. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a better earth. It's going to be a better place. It's going to be heaven. All right? Verse 8. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller has come up against us. Right? So you look at like the Amazon rainforest being cut down and just being destroyed. The trees are going to be happy when the Israelites get in rulership, because we're not going to do all that. Not to the extent that Esau does. I mean, we might cut down some trees here and there to build up some stuff, but we're not going to do it to the extent that Esau does. All right. Verse 9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming, right? The grave is ready to accept the wicked, all right? It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, right? So we see, and I kind of skipped over this in Daniel 12 because I got to the point in verse 4 that on Judgment Day, the dead's going to rise. It's going to be unlike any other day that has ever been seen. All right, not necessarily all the dead, but all the dead that God wants to be around on Judgment Day. He's going to rise them up, whether they were righteous, so God wants to bring them to His kingdom, or whether they were wicked and God wants them to burn. They're going to be rising up on Judgment Day. All right. They shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So that's what the dead ancient kings, right? All the dead, other kings of the other nations. That's what they're going to be saying to the Edomites. Okay, y'all finally fallen the way that we fell too? Every kingdom falls except for God's kingdom. All right? Thy pomp. Let's look up pomp real quick. It's like pride or hubris, right? What does that mean? Pomp, ceremony and splendid display, especially at a public event. Okay, so I was thinking more of the archaic definition. Ostentatious boastfulness or vanity. That's what I was thinking of. But display, ceremony. That also applies. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Right? So all your ceremony, all your display, all your traditions, that's going to hell with you. And the noise of thy viols, right? Your music, the worm is spread under thee. And the worms cover thee, right? Worms eat dead people, right? Worms eat corpses, all right? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations, right? So now we done read all this about the fall of Babylon, and now you get to verse 12 and you think it's talking about, some spiritual demon, Satan, where he used to be an angel. Y'all don't understand that God has good and evil angels that He controls. And guess what? God and Satan, they have a good relationship. Satan is an employee of God. It is what it is. All right? They don't fight. Not in the way that Christianity portrays. The way that they fight is a spiritual war, which is Satan saying, I can get more souls than you, God. And God saying, yeah, you're going to have more souls, but you're not going to get the ones that I preserve. And then Satan says, oh yeah, I bet I can tempt them. And God says, well, they're not going to fall to your devices. Like, that's how they fight. They don't actually go to war. Satan ain't trying to steal God's throne. He's not that stupid. All right? And believe it or not, he's not even that arrogant. But anyway, let's prove some of these things I just said real quick, because I just said a whole lot. First of all, when let's talk about God and Satan's relationship real quick. The book of Job tells you God and Satan's relationship. All right. Book of Job, chapter 1, towards the end of the chapter, and Job 2 also explains it. Job 1, starting verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Right? So in heavenly councils, Satan is present. All right? And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Right? So where are you coming from, Satan? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, from walking up and down in it. All right? So that's what Satan does. He travels all over the earth trying to find people to tempt and to sin. All right? That's all Satan is. Satan is a tempter demon. He's a tempter spirit. That's his job. That's what God made him to do. God didn't make him to be, an archangel and over the heavenly instruments or the musical choir in heaven, whatever the Christian mythology goes. God made Satan to be a tempter spirit. That's what he is. That's what he does. Verse 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. Right? So God gives Satan assignments. That's their relationship. Satan goes into his desk job every day, and he looks to see what on his desk, and God has presented him with, a new profile for who he wants him to tempt next. right? He said, look, okay, Job, he's a perfect man. He's upright, but I ain't never really tested him yet. Okay, here's your job, Satan. Hey, test him. All right? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, did Job fear God for naught? Has not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Right? So Satan's like, okay, here's how we're going to test him. You've given him everything. You've blessed him with everything. Would he still serve you if we take that all away? All right. Verse 11. But put forth thy hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So again, the Lord gives Satan assignments. Satan said, okay, here's how I'm going to go about it. And God said, okay, do it by the book. You know, just like, God is the police chief and Satan is a detective, right? He's like, okay, do it by the book. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. And Satan listens. He's not. See, what people need to realize and what people don't understand is everyone and everything that God made is doing their job except for God's people. We are not doing our job, as in we still sin against him when God made us to be like him. He made the wicked to be wicked, and they're doing their job. He made Satan to be a tempter spirit, and he's doing his job. He made the angels to do different things. Some he made good angels to deliver good messages. Some he made evil angels to cause destruction. They're doing their jobs. Only the Israelites are going against what God told us, and that's why the earth is out of course. Let me just prove the evil angels thing real quick. In Psalms 78, and people talking about these, like this book of Enoch garbage, and it is garbage because it says that there are angels who disobeyed God and became evil. They were good angels initially, but they disobeyed God and did evil. Y'all don't even understand that God has control over evil angels too. He has evil angels to do evil things. All right? He is the Almighty. The Most High is the Almighty. He creates good and evil. He uses good angels to do good things. He uses evil angels to do evil things. Where is this at here in Psalm 78? I think it's 49. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so a little context. Starting with verse 43. In Psalm 78, it said, how he had wrought his signs in Egypt and his wonders in the field of Zoan, and had turned their rivers into blood and their floods that they could not drink. Right? So in Psalm 78, the author of this psalm, I believe, is Asaph, and he's going through the history of the plagues in Egypt. Right? He sent diverse sorts of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. He gave also their increase unto the caterpillar and their labor unto the locust, right? This is what you read about in the early chapters of Exodus. You read about the plagues in Egypt, right? He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamore trees with frost. He gave up their cattle also to the hail and their flocks to hot thunderbolts. Verse 49, he cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath and indignation and trouble by sending evil angels among them. Like you may read the 10 plagues, and once you get to the 10th plague, and it says that God killed every firstborn son in the land of Egypt. That sounds evil, right? God sent an evil angel to kill all those kids. He creates good and evil. Verse 50, he made a way to his anger. He spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tabernacles of Ham. All right? And Isaiah 45 and 7, because a lot of y'all tripping out because I said God makes good and evil. Yes, he is the Almighty. There is no God with him. There's not again, Christian mythology is that well, God, he does all the good things, and Satan, he's out here doing all the bad things, and God can't stop him for some reason, or just chooses not to, but God still only does good things, and he can never really catch up to Satan doing all these evil things. Like, that's not what the Bible says at all. All right? Isaiah 45 and verse 7, it says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. He is the Almighty. He does all these things. Whether it be these teenage figure skaters in an airplane. God's the one who brought it down. All right, ultimately, he may have used the wicked to do it. It seems like he did, because it's very fishy. It's very fishy. It seems like the wicked were behind this. But even the wicked are God's sword. It says that in Psalm 17. The wicked only ever execute the judgment of God. Just like he sets the bounds for Satan. When he tells him, okay, you can do this, you can't do that. That's what he does to the wicked as well. He sends them on their way, and he says, you can do this, but you can't do that. And if they try to go beyond what God tells them they can do, it doesn't work. And it's a failed attempt. Like all the failed assassination attempts on Castro. They did not work because for whatever reason, God did not want Castro to be killed by the CIA. All right. But anyway, Psalm 17 and verse 13. It says, arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So the wicked are just an instrument that God uses to punish people. All right. Again, everyone's doing their job besides the Israelites. It's all on us. The world is out of course until you get right. And then it will be back in course again. Because God can rule in the earth with his people. All right. So back to Isaiah 14. I know I went on a tangent there, and I could have went further, but I'll cut it a little short. But that's what it's talking about when it's talking about Lucifer, all right? This is talking about the king of Babylon. This ain't talking about spiritual demon Satan. Oh, he disobeyed God, and no. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Right? When it says fallen from heaven, just to explain what that means real quick. Heaven in this sense, in this particular passage, is symbolic. All right? You read about this language, this symbolic language of heaven, specifically with Jeremiah and Ezekiel is where I've noticed it the most. And this is Jeremiah writing Lamentations, starting with 1. It says, how hath the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel, and remember not his footstool in the day of his anger. Right? So Jeremiah is lamenting over the fall of Jerusalem. All right? Were the Israelites literally up in the sky? Or literally in the dimension where God and his throne is? No. But metaphorically, they were in heaven because they had their own kingdom. They had things their way, right? They had things that they had autonomy. I'll put it like that. They had autonomy. They had self-governance, something the Israelites do not have today. All right? For example, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and American Indians here in the West, only oppressed and spoiled evermore, as the curses said we would be. All right? So, verse 2. It says, the Lord hath swallowed up all the habitations of Jacob, and hath not pitied. He hath thrown down in his wrath the strongholds of the daughter of Judah. Right? So when it said he cast down from heaven unto earth the beauty of Israel, he's saying he thrown down the strongholds. All right? He's thrown down the strongholds. He hath brought them down to the ground, and he hath polluted the kingdom and the princes thereof. Right? So this shows you that when it says heaven, in Lamentations 2 and verse 1, it's talking about the kingdom. It's talking about rulership. All right? It's the same thing in Isaiah 14. When it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, from your kingdom, O Lucifer, light bearer, or light bringer? That's what Lucifer means. Son of the morning. That's why it says son of the morning, because it's making an allusion, 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 not illusion. It's making an allusion. It is alluding to the literal sun, the sun. How when it rises, it brings the light, right? America currently is the glory of all kingdoms. It's the best place on earth to live, all right? Because everything like resources, food, is so readily available, all right? It says, how art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? That's what America is doing currently with its military in all these different countries, and it has been since, well, it depends on how far you want to go back with this. America has been weakening the nation since about Teddy Roosevelt. He started conquering all the different parts of Latin America. All right, that's when he started. That's when America started weakening the nations. Then, really, after World War II, it got ramped up with all the CIA intervention in international politics. All right, really weakened the nations by doing all that. All right, verse 13. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, right? That's their space travel. They said, I will ascend into heaven with the space travel. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, right? I will rule over the Israelites in North America. And that's what they've done. All right? Rolled over the Gadites in North America initially. And then Gadites started dying by disease. All right, read about that in Deuteronomy 28, 61 through 63. And then they said, well, we got to get new slaves. All our old slaves, all our Indian slaves are dying out by disease. So what they do, they went to West Africa, where they knew Judites were. They went and got the Jews from West Africa, brought them on slave ships. Again, you can read about that in Deuteronomy 28, 64 through 68. And, ruling over the congregation ever since. All right. Initially it was Gad and Reuben. Then it was Judah. Then they pushed west and started oppressing Issachar. All right. And they just keep doing it. Right. As I said, they weakened the nations. They went to all the other nations as well and started weakening them. Verse 14. Here's the point though. This is the invention of the plane. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And if you've ever been in a plane, you know that's exactly what it does. It starts on the ground and it takes off and it ascends above the clouds. That's what it does. When you read the scriptures, Christianity has taught our minds to think of fairy tales and mythology. But it's actually talking about what literally has happened, what is literally happening, what will literally happen. That's all it's talking about. All right? And this was, who was it? Orville and Wilbur Wright. They invented the airplane. Two Edomites invented the airplane, right? Right, so this has this innovation in technologies, right? Whether it be space travel or, air travel. It has lifted the pride up in the Edomites, especially here in America, right? Excuse me. Right, proud to be an American, right? It's literally a slogan to have pride in America, all right? When the scriptures say pride is the beginning of all evil, all right? Pride is not something that you should want to have, all right? But anyway, verse 15. It says, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, right? So you have this mentality that you're going to rule in heaven forever, that you're going to be like God, but God's going to bring you down. It's the same thing it says in Obadiah. It's the same exact thing it says in Obadiah. It says it in different words, though. But it's exactly the same meaning. Right? Because it said, you'll be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Right? Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Right? Hell just meaning the grave. Right? Obadiah 1, there's only one chapter in Obadiah. Starting with verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. Edom being the so-called Caucasians, the so-called Europeans. All right, that's Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord. And an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Right? It's all culminating in World War III. It's all culminating in World War III. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, right? Not liked. Thou art greatly despised, very much hated among the heathen. That's why BRICS was formed in the first place, because of the hatred that they have for specifically America, because America is the embodiment of Edom. They will even let other Edomites into BRICS, right? Like Russians. But they said, hey, look, as long as you're against America, that's all we're looking for, because of how despised America is. Verse 3. The pride of thy heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Right? Because in ancient times, Esau dwelt in mountains. All right? And even through the Middle Ages, they had, they dwelt in the Caucasus Mountains and in the Alps. All right? Whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Right? So that's the mentality. They think that America will persist forever. All right? And whose habitation is high, they build skyscrapers. All right? They live in penthouses. That's where the wicked like to stay at. That's where they like to, do their wicked deeds, is in their penthouses. All right? Verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, right? That's the American symbol, is the bald eagle. And though thou set thy nest among the stars, again, talking about space travel, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. And that's exactly what Isaiah 14 says, right? Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. The Bible says the same thing all throughout. It's pretty redundant when you actually start reading it. You read it and you read the prophecy and say, oh, all this is saying the same thing. Don't matter if you read in Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Obadiah. It all says the same thing. All right, you get to the New Testament, whether it's John the Revelator or Paul's writings or Peter's, you say, oh, okay, this is all the same thing. The words of the Messiah, oh, that says the same thing that Moses said. It's all the same. All right, they're all on one accord. They agree in one. All right. If thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? You see that right there? So first of all, it says, is this the man? Lucifer is not talking about a spiritual demon, Satan, not talking about an archangel. It said, is this the man? It's talking about men. All right? Specifically America and the wickedness that goes on here. All right? That made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms. Right? The CIA just talked about how they overthrow kingdoms. Just look into that. On your own time, maybe we'll do a lesson on it at some point. I know I've talked about it before on the Ezekiel Israel teaching page. I talked about the CIA, how they like to overthrow countries. Did shake kingdoms, right? Specifically, I've talked in these lessons about Guatemala, how they overthrew Jacobo Arbenz. I don't think I've ever necessarily talked about how they overthrew Patrice Lumumba, though, in the Congo. But, just like there's a whole list. If I start listing all the people that they've overthrown, you'd be like, dang, that's crazy. It says that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. They're right there. So now they're just locking up people for being here, right? That's the Israelites that they're doing that too. But they also do it to black people, send innocent black people to jail all the time. All right? Send innocent people to jail all the time. And not open the house to the prisoners. Okay, so I'll read through verse 20. Actually, 21. 22 is pretty good too. So I guess I'll read through 22 and we'll call it a night. All right? So it says, all the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory. Everyone in his own house. All right, so all the kings of the nations, they have their own glory, right? But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch. And as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. The guy said, hey, look, it's going to be different. With America, you're not going to be able to stay here. Just like, for example, you have the Persians, they're still in Iran, and they're going to be in Iran. forever. All right. But when it comes to Esau, he said, look, no, America's going to be destroyed. You're not going to be able to stay here. You're going to be a carcass. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. He said right there. So the seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Verse 21, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Right? So, you got people today talking about, oh, why should we pay reparations when I ain't never owned no slave? Well, you're inheriting the privilege that comes from past slave ownership, right? You have a lot of people who, and I suppose the pool is getting smaller and smaller because the wicked Edomites up at the top are taking all the money even from their fellow Edomites. But like all that slave money's still around. It's just in the pockets of these billionaires, all right, and millionaires, and even some 100,000aires. But yeah. So the judgment is just gonna come on the nation, just like the judgment always just comes on the entire nation of people. All right. That's how God deals with judgment when it comes to different kingdoms, different people groups. All right. He just judges the whole nation. All right. Some individuals going to get it worse than others for sure. But yeah, you can't use that as an excuse. If you support what America is doing, you're going to fall along. You're going to fall right alongside it. You know what I mean? Right? You're going to be slaughtered for the iniquity of your fathers. If you support this place, if you're like, yeah, go Trump, get all these illegals out of here. Well, okay. God's looking at that and he's making notes. He's taking notes. He's making notice, right? And he said, look, that they do not rise. He's not going to let the Edomites rise up again after America. After America's destroyed, okay, no more Edomites in rulership. No more Edomites in power. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord. Right? So he said, I'm wiping out everybody. If you read Isaiah 63, Christ comes through and he takes out everybody. That's how it's going to go down when it comes to America. There's not going to be, because like even when the nukes come, you're going to have people in bunkers. All right, and then you see like movies like Mad Max. After the nukes, people are riding around and they're having a good time. No, that's not what's going to happen. Even riding around and like scrounging for survival, that's not going to happen. Christ's going to come over here and rip everybody out them bunkers and just destroy them all. All right, this country will not last. It's going to be destroyed because of the wickedness that goes on here. Now, I didn't even get to these other articles. One of them about the tariffs that Trump's putting on Canada, Mexico, and China. All right, so hey, probably going to be an increase in cost of goods. Inflation's probably going to go up based off those tariffs. We'll see, but it's probably going to go up. So be prepared for that. All right, and the other was it's a hostage/prisoner swap between Hamas and the state of Israel. Showing you how lopsided it is. It said 3 Israelis for 183 Palestinians, right? So the Israelis, the Jewish, are complaining about, oh, they took captives, they took hostages. The Israelis have been taking Palestinian hostages for years, decades at this point. All right. They had 183 that they were just willing to give up. And Hamas only had 3 that they were willing to give up. So that tells you how lopsided this has really been. And whenever you compare the deaths on October 7th versus the deaths that the many thousands and, I guess it's upwards of like 15 to 20,000 minors that the state of Israel has just destroyed over there in Gaza. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about tonight, and I'll go ahead and close it out with Matthew 26. I feel like I do Actually, before I even go to Matthew 26, I do want to close out with Psalms 10. And what is this? Is there a comment or something? No. Okay. Just a viewer and a reaction. All right. Shalom, shalom, y'all. In Psalms 10, they they seek to murder the innocent. That's what they're doing. That's what they've done. That's what they do. They seek to murder the innocent. All right. So Psalms 10 is heavy. I go to Psalms 10 often when talking about America and what they do. I ain't gonna read all of it, but I'm gonna skip around a little bit. Psalms 10 verse 1: Why stand thou afar off, O Lord? Why hide thou thyself in times of trouble? Right. So David is saying, stand up, O Lord, fight for us. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. Right. So that's one of the reasons why we stream online, so that they can be taken in the devices that they have imagined. And y'all understand, this electronic stuff is temporary. It's not going to be around forever. All right? But we have it for now. We're going to use it to spread the gospel. All right? Anyway, jumping down, verse 8. And it seems like this is exactly what happened with these plane crashes. I don't have much evidence to support this, just the details that they have given us. It seems fishy. That's what I've been saying all night. It seems like this was some sort of sacrifice makes it sound like it's occultish, and it does kind of seem that way, but what the Bible calls it is murdering the innocent. That's what it seems like. Verse 8: He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. All right. So he looks for people that nobody's going to miss, and he murders the innocent. That's what happens here in America. Believe it or not, that is what happens here. So jumping down and starting with verse 12, it says, Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thy hand, forget not the humble. Right, God? Don't forget your people. Don't forget the meek. Wherefore doth the wicked contemn God? He said, why are they even fighting against God? He had said in his heart, thou will not require it. Right, so they think they can get away with it. Thou hast seen it. God sees all that they do. Even the stuff that we don't know about. God sees all of it. All right. For thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. Right, so God is specifically making notes on it. He's taking notes on it. He said, okay, you gotta answer for this. You gotta answer for that. Okay, you did this. You thought nobody saw. You gotta answer for that. All right. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. Right? Like that checklist I was just talking about. Okay, you did this, you did that, you did that, you did that, you did this. He's going to go through all of it. And judgment has to come for all of it that they've done. All right? Because we do serve a just God. All right? Justice will come. Wickedness will not last. Wickedness cannot last. It's impossible. It eats itself. All right? Till thou find none, the Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. And guess what? Them Jewish and them Ishmaelites over there that's splitting up the land, all of them going to perish out of it. All right? Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thy ear to hear. To judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. That's exactly what Isaiah 14 was talking about, right? The king of Babylon finally falling. Lucifer falling from heaven, being dragged down to hell.